bit different than the other nuns. She was said to have told some of the other sisters in her convent that she was possessed by the devil.
It didn't seem like what I thought of when I thought of, Christ. It seemed to me like, oh no, this is a dark little trap.
Imagine a nun in 1676, ink smeared across her face, scribbling a letter she swears came straight from the devil himself.
They believe in Satan as a concept, I think. I think it's like there's like a graph.
Fast forward to today, and that same letter's been cracked open with some wild tech from the dark web. What did it say? And why does it feel like something Joe Rogan would lose his mind over on his podcast? We're diving into a creepy historical mystery that blends possession, ancient codes, and modern twists. Perfect for a late-night Joe Rogan experience vibe. Stick around, because this story's got layers you won't see coming. The Nun and Her Devilish Letter. So, let's set the scene. It's August 11th, 1676, in a quiet little convent in Palma di Montechiaro, Sicily. Picture this: stone walls, flickering candles, the kind of place where silence is king, until it's not. Sister Maria Crocifissa, born Isabella Tomasi in 1645, is just 31 years old. She's been in this Benedictine convent since she was 15, living a life of prayer and discipline. But that morning, something's off. The other nuns find her in her cell, ink all over her hands and face, looking like she's been through a fight with a quill. In her grip, a 14-line letter written in some bizarre mashup of symbols: Greek, Latin, Arabic, runic stuff. She tells them, voice trembling, "The devil made me do it." Literally. She says Lucifer himself took over her body, forced her to write this thing as part of his grand plan to pull her away from God. Now, this isn't just some random nun having a bad day. The 17th century was wild for this kind of thing. Europe was obsessed with possession stories. Think witch hunts, exorcisms, the whole deal. Just a few decades earlier, in the 1630s, France had the Loudun possessions, where nuns claimed demons were running the show. So, Sister Maria's story? It fits right in. People back then ate this stuff up, part fear, part faith. Was she really possessed? Or was something else going on? Hold that thought, because this letter's got more to it than just a spooky origin. What's crazy is how it stayed a mystery for over 300 years. Scholars looked at it, scratched their heads, and went, yeah, no clue. It's not like it was written in plain Italian. It was this cryptic jumble that felt almost otherworldly. Sister Maria herself, she didn't exactly live a quiet life after this. Historical records hint she kept having visions, maybe hallucinations, which we'll dig into later. But that moment in 1676 cemented her name in history. A nun, a devil, and a letter nobody could read. Sounds like a horror movie setup, right? Except it's real. And it gets weirder when you realize how they finally figured it out centuries later. But how do you even start to unravel something that stumped people for 3 centuries? That's where this story takes a turn you'd never expect. Straight into the world of high-tech code breaking. Cracking the code, the translation. Fast forward to 2017, and we're not in a dusty convent anymore. We're at the Ludum Science Center in Sicily. A team led by Daniele Abate, a guy who's all about solving puzzles, decides to take a crack at Sister Maria's letter. For 341 years, it's been sitting there, taunting historians with its gibberish. But these folks, they've got something nobody in 1676 could have dreamed of. Software from the dark web. Yeah, you heard that right. Dark web tech, the kind usually tied to spies or hackers, not nuns. They load this program up with ancient alphabets Sister Maria might have known: Greek, Latin, Arabic, runic, and let it rip. The process isn't simple. They're analyzing syllable patterns, letter shapes, the works. It's like teaching a computer to think like a 17th century nun who might have been possessed. Or just really good at making stuff up. After some serious number crunching, they get a hit. About 70% of the letter starts making sense. And what it says? It's dark. Real dark. Lines like, God thinks he can free mortals. This system works for no one. Then it gets bolder. God does not exist. Trinity is fake. There is only me. And here's a kicker. Perhaps now, Styx is certain, tying it to the Greek underworld river. This isn't just creepy. It's straight up blasphemous, like the devil's giving a middle finger to everything the church stood for. Now, 30% of it's still a mystery. Garbled bits they couldn't crack. But what they did translate has this Tong-yi pessimistic, almost threatening vibe. Researchers called it pure evil in tone, which, fair enough, sounds like something Satan might sign off on. Was this really the devil talking? Or Sister Maria's mind playing tricks? Daniele Abate leans toward the latter. He thinks she might have had something like bipolar disorder or schizophrenia, mixing her education with some wild imagination. She'd have known those ancient scripts from convent studies, so maybe she cooked this up herself. But here's the thing, it's so consistent, so deliberate. Could someone in that state pull off a code this complex? The tech angle's what blows my mind. Dark web software cracking a 1676 devil letter. It's like James Bond meets The Exorcist. And it worked because of how they trained it. Hours of tweaking to match her possible knowledge base. That's dedication. So, we've got this chilling message now. But what's it got to do with a guy like Joe Rogan? Let's find out. Speaking of wild stories, this feels like it'd fit right into a certain podcast we all know, especially with a host who loves digging into the weird and unexplained. What's the connection? Joe Rogan's World. Why this fits. If you've ever listened to the Joe Rogan Experience, you know Joe's got a thing for the strange. Launched back in 2009, this podcast's become a giant. Millions of views, hours-long chats with everyone from scientists to comedians. Rogan's not just about MMA or weed. He's obsessed with history, the supernatural, stuff that makes you go, wait, what? So, a nun claiming the devil wrote through her in 1676? That's prime JRE material. Problem is, there's no record of him talking about Sister Maria Crocefisa's letter specifically. I've dug through episode lists, and nada. But let's break down why it'd fit anyway. Picture Joe leaning into the mic. So this nun's got ink all over her face, says Satan's in her head. What's that about? He's had guests like Graham Hancock, episode 961, Diving into Lost Civilizations, or Dan Carlin, episode 1041, Spinning Historical Yarns. Then there's Duncan Trussell, episode 2009, where they touch on cults and the occult. Close vibes, right? Even Jack Carr, talking his book The Devil's Hand, brings up the devil, though it's more fiction than history. Point is, Rogan's radar's tuned for this. He's done episodes on ghosts, like 1351 with Dan Aykroyd, or UFOs, ranked high by fans for paranormal kicks. A 17th century possession story with a coded twist? He'd eat it up. Why hasn't he covered it? Maybe it's too niche, or it just hasn't hit his desk yet. But imagine him with, say, a historian or a tech expert breaking it down. Dude, they used dark web software to crack this? That's insane. His audience, guys and gals who love a good mystery, would be all over it. Rogan's style is perfect for this. Casual, curious, a little skeptical, but open. He'd probably ask, was she really possessed, or was this chick just messed up? That's the hook, balancing the spooky with the real. It's not just the story, though. It's the layers. History, religion, a dash of tech weirdness. Rogan's talked AI with Mark Zuckerberg, so the dark web angle would get him going. You're telling me spy tech solved a devil letter? Bro, even if he hasn't hit this exact topic, it's in his wheelhouse. You can almost hear him now, riffing with a guest, making it half serious, half hilarious. Too bad we don't have that episode yet. But that dark web software thing? That's not just a side note. It's a game changer worth zooming in on. How does something that modern even work on a mystery that old? The tech twist. Modern tools. Old mysteries. All right, let's talk about the real MVP here. That dark web software. When the Ludum Science Center decided to tackle Sister Maria's letter in 2017, they didn't mess around. This wasn't some dusty professor with a magnifying glass. It was high-tech, cloak and dagger stuff. The program they used? Pulled from the dark web, where you'd expect to find hackers or spies, not historians. Originally built for breaking encrypted messages, like think CIA-level code cracking, it got a new gig, decoding a 17th century nun's scribbles. How's that for a plot twist? Here's how it went down. Daniele Abate's team fed this software a crash course in ancient alphabets. Greek, Latin, Arabic, Runic. Stuff Sister Maria might have picked up in her convent days. They're not guessing, they're analyzing patterns like how often certain symbols repeat, or how they line up with known languages. It's tedious, precise, and honestly kind of mind-blowing. After hours of tweaking, bam! 70% of the letter spills its secrets. God's fake, I'm the real deal, it says in so many words. The rest? Still locked away, but what they got was enough to raise eyebrows. This isn't just cool, it's a big deal. Old mysteries like this usually stay unsolved because we're stuck with old tools. But now, tech's flipping the script. Imagine what else it could crack. Lost manuscripts, secret codes from wars, you name it. It's almost funny picturing some coder designing this for espionage, only for it to end up in a Sicilian lab reading devil mail. The fact it worked shows how far we've come, and how much we still don't know about the past. What's wilder is the crossover. History and tech don't always play nice, but here, they're best buds. It's like giving Sherlock Holmes a laptop. And for a story like this, with its creepy vibes and big questions, it's the perfect bridge. Makes you wonder, what other secrets are out there, waiting for the right tool to bust them open? That tech's neat, but it leaves us hanging. Was this really the devil, or something else entirely? Let's peel back the layers on that one. Demonic or delusion? Theories explored. So, what's the deal with Sister Maria? Was she actually channeling Satan, or was this all in her head? That's the million-dollar question, and it's got people split. Back in 1676, possession was the go-to explanation. Nuns acting weird? Devil's fault. The church was all about it. Exorcisms were legit business. Sister Maria's story fits that mold. Ink everywhere, cryptic letter, claims of Lucifer whispering in her ear. To her peers, it was proof evil was real, lurking in the shadows of their holy walls. Some even thought it was a test from God, like a spiritual flex. But flip to today, and the vibe's different. Daniele Abate, the guy who led the translation, isn't buying the demon angle. He's like, look, she might have been dealing with bipolar disorder or schizophrenia. Makes sense. She had visions, maybe hallucinations, and that letter's tone? Dark, chaotic, like someone wrestling their own mind? Modern psychology says possession-like behavior can tie to mental health stuff. Mood swings, voices, the works. Plus, she was educated, knew those old alphabets. Could she have whipped up this code herself, consciously or not? It's possible. Then there's the middle ground. Maybe it's cultural, like 17th century Sicily was steeped in faith and fear. If Sister Maria felt off, her brain might have framed it as the devil because that's what she knew. Ever wonder how much our surroundings shape what we believe? Her letters got this mix of Greek mythology, Styx, and Christian blasphemy, which feels personal, almost poetic. Was she a tortured artist in a nun's habit? Or did something darker really grab her? The debate's juicy because it's not just about her. It's about us. Some folks see this as evidence of the supernatural. Others, a sad case of a mind unraveling. Both sides have weight. Possession stories still freak us out. Think The Exorcist vibes. But science keeps us grounded. What do you think? Could a nun in 1676 really tap into something evil? Or was she just lost in her own storm? Whatever you lean toward, Sister Maria's not alone. History's full of stories like hers, begging for a closer look. What else is out there? Echoes of the past, similar cases. Sister Maria's letter might be unique, but her stories got cousins. Let's rewind to the 1630s in Loudun, France. A group of Ursuline nuns starts acting nuts, screaming, convulsing, saying demons are inside them. The ringleader, Sister Jeanne des Anges, claims a priest named Urbain Grandier cursed them via the devil. It's a circus, public exorcisms, accusations, and Grandier ends up burned at the stake in 1634. Sound familiar? Like Sister Maria, it's possession meets drama, with a side of cryptic behavior. Historians now think it was mass hysteria, maybe some politics mixed in, but back then, pure evil, case closed. Jump to 1692, Salem, Massachusetts. Not nuns, but young girls start twitching, claiming witches, aka the devil's buddies, are tormenting them. 19 people hang before it's over. No coded letters here, but the same vibe. Unexplained freakouts, blamed on Satan. Today, we guess ergot poisoning or just fear gone wild. Point is, these cases echo Sister Maria's, people seeing the devil where something else might have been brewing. Even closer to her time, in 1589, a German girl, Anna Fessler, supposedly possessed, spits out weird prophecies. Exorcists get involved, and it's chaos. No letters, but the pattern holds. Odd behavior, devil's name dropped, everyone panics. What ties these together? A world where faith ruled, and anything strange got a supernatural label. Makes you think how many demons were just misunderstood. These stories aren't identical, but they're kin. Sister Maria's letter adds that extra layer. Tangible proof you can hold, decode, debate. They all leave us asking, what's real and what's us trying to explain the unexplainable?